This is your dose of daily market wisdom with master trader Nick Santiago. Starting from humble beginnings, Nick has been beating the markets for over 2 decades. He shares with you his take on the profitable trades that will have you moving towards financial freedom in no time at all. To see an in-depth review of his track record and much more, go to inthemoneystocks.com.
Welcome, and this is your daily dose of daily market wisdom with Master Trader Nick Santiago. I'm Kerry Lutz. Today is May 14th, 2020, and this is show number 34. Nick, hey, is this a bear move or is this a head fake?
Well, I think it's a head fake, and I'll tell you why. Yesterday, we talked about a bearish pattern that could trigger yesterday, and it did. The bearish pattern triggered on the daily chart. That gives us a move on the S&P 500, potentially to a low around 2,700 or even a little bit, slight bit lower than that, maybe a pierce of it. But a couple of things that I'm noticing today. Well, as we all know, I've been talking about it all week that we have options expiration this Friday. So this is a week of institutional game playing. I like to use Apple because everybody's familiar with this chart of Apple. Stock has been flying high. It went from a low in March of around 212 all the way to almost 320 on the 12th of May. And now you've seen Apple trade down to around 302 where it's at today. So that's how to pull back. But that's really just what we call up into options X. You get a lot of the small retail options traders jumping on board for the near-term expiration, thinking it's going to go to a double top high around 327 or 330. And what does the institution do? They pull the rug out from under them, and they make those options expire worthless. This happens each and every month. It's a game that's being played. I call it the real Shark Week. So when you look over at the market, yes, we triggered a very bearish pattern yesterday, but when that pattern triggered, and if you look at a spider chart, you'll see that triggered right above the 285, around the 284 level. So once it closed there, we had a really, really good sell-off. But if you get back above that 284 level, you'll trigger a major buy signal, signaling, or I should say, hence the old saying, the best moves come from failed moves. So right now, the markets are actually holding up pretty well. The Dow is down over 400 points. It's only down 150 points as we speak. But one thing I've noticed today, the financial stocks, which have been really the laggards, I mean, they've really struggled as of late. In fact, if you take a look at Wells Fargo, that stock has been a dog with fleas. I mean, this stock can't get out of its own way. Today, that stock in a down market is up about 7%, 6.5% at the moment. JP Morgan, which has been really struggling also, is up almost $1.85 right here. It's a 2.2% gain. Bank of America is up 2.7%. When you see financials act well in a bad tape, that is a very, very bullish indication. So we're going to have to see where the market closes today. But I actually think this is where the market talks to us. It whispers. It can't come out and say, hey, we're shifting here, we're going to go higher. But it does it when you see these different little sectors start to perk up. And we're seeing a big perk up in the financials today.
Yeah, and the airlines have gotten slaughtered, the hotels, everything has gotten killed this week. So you're just chalking it up to options expiration manipulation effectively.
Absolutely. In fact, the airline stocks today were making new lows, but they've all reversed. You actually have Southwest Airlines, which I own. It's only down 10 cents now. So the stock is trading at, $23.85. It traded as low as $22.46. Now, it's not how they open them. It's really how they close them. So we're going to have to see what we get by the end of the day. But I'm seeing some pretty good reversals in this market right now. And again, we'll watch and see what it does. But there's some real positive action going on, especially in the financial stocks and other sectors across the board.
So we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about weekly jobless claims, another 3 million, and a bad number. But at some point, we got to see this number reverse, right?
Yeah, and like I said yesterday, I said, don't expect a good number this week. Expect another bad number because these states are just starting to open up their economies. And you have a lot of people not even looking forward. I spoke to 3 people last night that said, I don't even want to go back to work. I'm making more money staying home. And you have a lot of that going on right now. I think next week will be more important. We'll start to see a lot more states open up. We'll start to see some other areas of the states open up. And again, that's going to be positive for the weekly jobless claims numbers to reverse here.
Yeah, and look, the $600 in additional unemployment benefits, that runs out theoretically July 31st, but if it only lasts for 14 weeks. So if you got it early, like early March, then it's going to be gone July 1. And at that point, you're going to have to be thinking, well, in Florida, you'll be getting a whopping $275 a week, which probably isn't even enough for your food bill. But in other states, it's higher, but it's still not full income replacement.
Yeah, and this is another reason why people should just go back to work. Good faith, good karma. Go back to work if your job wants you. And I have to say, I'm seeing a lot more business opening up. In fact, we had reservations for Memorial Day at a beach resort on your coast. Mm-hmm. And because they are not a hotel, they're actually vacation rentals, they haven't gotten word that they can open up yet. So it's pretty interesting. My wife called another place and went to book a place in Captiva, which is on the west coast of Florida, and they are absolutely sold out.
Yep, exactly what we said was going to happen. I'm seeing it all over, but there still are great travel deals, great hotel deals, and you just have to look at Priceline and Hotwire. I'm going to Vegas in July, $100 a night. I mean, it just doesn't. I haven't seen rates like that in 5 years.
That you have incredible deals out there. The airlines are actually doing lots and lots of things to make it much safer to fly. They're doing much more. They're going to have much more cleanliness in the planes. I mean, there's a lot happening out here. And again, I know this week we've been bombarded with bearish news from Stan Druckenmiller, from David Tepper, to the Boeing CEO. I mean, China sanctions. I could go on with a list of 50 things, but don't worry about that stuff. Watch the price action on the charts. That's what makes money.
Yeah. So they're just talking their book, talking the market down. Hey, looking back at our sectors here, so gold and silver, where are we at there?
Gold is very, very strong again today, up another $25 on the June contract, right now trading at $17.41. Silver is having a really, really good day. Spot silver up about 2.5% today. Right now, spot silver is trading at $16.05, or I shouldn't say spot, but the June contract. So all in all, I mean, precious metals, I don't see them stopping anytime soon. The patterns are good across the board. I would like to see gold and gold miners consolidate, but they really just continue to run. So silver at this point is my favorite play. I own the SLV, full disclosure. Recently, I owned the SLV call options as well, but we made our 20+% in a day or so, and I took the money off the table there. But I will be getting back into that, and I do own SLV currently, and I think the chart is going higher.
So chart's going higher. What about oil? Now we're starting to reopen. Even in states like New York, they're talking about reopening. I mean, they can't just keep these places closed down, can they?
Well, you never know what these liberal governors want to do. I mean, I think it's all agenda on their behalf. It's an embarrassment, though, to see states shut down like that, or California. You're seeing the 3 more months in LA and Frisco, they want to close it down. I mean, that's absurd. It's absolutely become idiotic at this stage of the game. They should be ashamed of themselves. Honestly, you got to open up the economy. I mean, that's the only way, or else you're going to have bigger problems. People don't realize what a depression looks like. I've studied depressions, and not only 1929, but I've studied depression of 1873. If you go back and you really look at what a real depression looks like, you're going to be shocked at what can happen. And that's what happens when you shut down an economy over a virus or anything else. I'm not saying it's not serious. I mean, there are definitely people that have been affected by this, but you're affecting much, much more people now because of the shutdown.
And it's global too. It's a global depression.
And it's global.
And they're ensuring themselves that they're not going to be reelected as well. Certainly the one from Michigan, probably the one from Maine. The guy in Pennsylvania is off his rocker, Wolf. I mean, he is just become a complete petty dictator, tyrant. And they're violating constitutional rights here without any showing that what they're doing is actually going to work. And that's the worst part of it, Nick. Maybe it's going to work to throw the world and the country into a depression, but it's not working to like stop the virus because the virus is stopping on its own.
Well, I have to say, Kerry, it's come to a point now where the people have to rise up and wake up. And if they don't do that soon, they're just going to be thought of and led to slaughter like sheep. And that's, unfortunately, I hate to say it like that, but sometimes that's where we are at this stage of the game. I'm a trader. I'm going to make money regardless. I'm going to trade it up. I'm going to trade it down. But for the sake of livelihoods, for the sake of mankind, for the sake of people, they got to get back to work.
Yeah. And even if you don't like your job, your career, whatever, staying home for 2 months, you realize how important it is. Like you and I, it hasn't really affected in terms of the work that we do. But for so many of you out there stuck in the house, it's really made a big difference and really shown you the importance of work in your life.
I couldn't agree more. And I look at so many people these days that are out of work, and I realize how blessed and fortunate I am. So, we need to get the country back on its feet. You got to open up, and the world, for the most part, they really have to start opening up as well. And again, there's ways. If you have to mitigate or you get a flare up, you isolate those that are going to be affected, and everybody else go back to work. And that's really the bottom line. There's a lot you can do health wise, where people don't really talk about that. The politicians don't talk about that. The health officials don't talk about that because there's no money in being healthy. There's only money in drugs. There's only money in vaccines. Big pharma really, dictates the reality of it. But, the truth of the matter is you could do a lot to prevent a lot of problems just by staying healthy and doing some really, really simple things. Yeah. I'm not a health professional. I'm not going to say what those things are, but you can go research it. You can find a health practitioner and find out what they are. Pretty simple.
And if you look at Florida, our state, and Georgia, which was a week ahead or 2 weeks, a week or two ahead of the reopening, nothing's happened here. The cases are going down. Well, maybe the cases are going up because of increased testing. The more you test, the more cases you're going to find. That's just a given. But the fact is that hospitalizations in both states are down, and so are deaths. And what better measure is there of things than that?
There really is no better measure, in my opinion, and we're seeing really a successful launch in Georgia. We're seeing Florida really start to blossom here, and it's a perfect time of year too because it's the spring season. There's lots to do. There's lots of outdoor activity, and then you go and look at New York, and it's just people are getting more sick by being indoors.
Oh yeah, for sure. Sunlight is the best disinfectant, and people who, it's more or less established, I think, people that don't get outside much, don't spend any time outside, more prone to illness. I mean, I think that's fairly well established medical fact here. So hopefully in the coming week, we've already seen over 30 states reopen. Some states, 5 never closed. And basically, once the businesses start opening, they're all going to reopen because it's just there's no appetite by the enforcement agencies other than maybe the Department of Health. But besides them, the police don't want to get involved in this. The sheriffs don't want to get involved in enforcing this stuff, Nick. None of the law enforcement wants to really be involved in it.
Yeah, I mean, and you can't blame them. They see what's going on. They're people too, and they're being forced a lot of times to just do things against their will. I mean, we all know the story of the lady in Texas that had the hair salon that opened up her doors, and then the judge threw her in jail for a week. I mean, the politics got to end. It's despicable at this stage of the game. I'm tired of it. I know everybody that I speak to is tired of it. And let's just get back to work.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. And hey, oil, we still bullish on oil. I mean, as things are opening up, we saw that the inventory was actually down. The build wasn't up. Yet oil still went down.
Oil's up another $1.15 today. We're at $26.40 a barrel now. So, like we've been saying, once you open up this economy, you're going to see a drawdown in all those reserves, and that's what's starting to happen. If these airlines get flying, oil goes to the mid to low 30s, and that's really where we are. So, oil's having a great day today, and up another 4% or so. And honestly, if we start to open up more, we're gonna use more of it.
Yeah, no question. And especially because the supply has been so diminished. Wells, probably 20, 30 million barrels a day out of close to 100 million barrels have just been taken off the market. And to restart those wells is not that quick a process. Natural gas, yes, but oil, not so much. And they'll probably keep them offline to help the price go up anyway.
Yeah, I think that if you just look at what's going on with supply and demand, we are actually starting to see that we got more demand, and it's just that simple of an equation.
Yeah, well, it's commodity, and that's really, when you're talking about commodities, it's all about supply and demand. There's really nothing that exotic. You have governments interfering in supply and demand to distort the price. But oil, there's so much of it produced, governmental intervention doesn't last very long.
No, and to be honest, you have forces out there that are trying to cripple the oil industry. They did it with coal. They're trying to do it with oil itself. I don't want to say the climate movement or whatever it is, but the climates have been changing from the beginning of time. To call it climate change is really bizarre to me. Climates have been changing from the beginning of time. We're a petroleum-based world until we're not. And that transition of going more towards electric and other sources takes time. But, and at the moment, we still rely on oil. And that's really where we are in life.
All right. Well, oil it is. There's no getting away from it. You can buy a Tesla, but you're still going to be using oil, plastic. Everything in modern life requires oil, petrochemicals, you name it. There's no getting away from that. And there's no getting away from the fact that you should go to inthemoneystocks.com, check out Nick's extensive trading record, up to date, a lot of other important info there. Check out the Twitter feeds at ITMS and at Nick Santiago01 and at Kerry Lutz. Nick, we will pick up tomorrow, Friday, when that option finally expires, and then we can get on with the real market.
Absolutely. And amen, that options X is just about over. And again, now we go back to the charts and we could start making some money again.
Hey, and just one question about options expiration. When you've had these volatile markets, which we've had, I mean, massive downward move, massive upward move. What is your experience with options expiration? Does that first options expiration after the countervailing move, is that usually this crazy?
Yeah, almost every month we see a lot of institutional game playing with the monthly expiration, which happens on the third Friday of every month. So I already alerted my members last week. I said, hey, we're not going to do a whole lot this week with options X. The markets are up a ton, especially the big tech stocks like Apple and several others. They're due for pullbacks. That's normally what's going to happen, and we've seen that. And in fact, the entire market was up. The S&P 500 was challenging, its April 29th high. It was also a 618 retrace. So nothing that's taken place here has been a surprise to me. We see this all the time when we have big upswing markets, and sometimes when we have big downward markets, we see that as well. So again, I'm not at all surprised by this action, and I told all my members to expect it this week. Options X game playing is what we call it. It's a real Shark Week. That's what it is.
Yeah, the real Shark Week, and I like that. Hey, well, anyways, Make sure you send us an email, kl@kerrylutz.com, with your opinions, where you think the market is heading. We want to hear from you. And don't forget to like, share, or subscribe this, whether you're on a podcast platform or YouTube. It really helps us a lot when you do it. We've got well over 1,000 of you tuning in every single day to hear Nick's Daily Market Wisdom, and we're going to keep doing it. Tomorrow will be our 35th episode. Till then, Nick, we will talk to you, and have a good one.
Thank you.
This concludes another episode of Daily Market Wisdom with Master Trader Nick Santiago. For more information, go to inthemoneystocks.com and see Nick's full trading record, or check out the Twitter feeds @ITMS and @NickSantiago01.